Hi there, warriors. Welcome to this week's edition of the Warrior 5. So, if you've been here before, you know that in the Warrior 5, I usually take 5 important business-centric tips that can help you in your business, and they're usually to do with mindset or things that really can move you forward in business. This week we're doing a little bit of a departure because we wanted to lighten things up, but also because I found this article, which originally appeared in the Business Insider, pretty interesting, and I thought I would share it with you, as many of us have to travel for business. So we do have that business element in it, but this is a little bit more of a lighthearted observation and just something that kind of funny to keep in mind. So it's 5 things that flight attendants know that passengers don't. So kind of like insider things. And some of them I don't think you want to know. Like the first one, they know what passengers have luggage and what passengers came on board really without any luggage or anything. So kind of a cause for a little bit of your radar coming up. They also know, and I combine these two into one because they have that same sensibility. They also know what passengers are wearing. So if somebody gets on the airplane and it is the middle of summer and they're wearing a winter coat, that would send off a little bit of a red flag. So flight attendants, they're aware of it. With all that's going on with boarding a plane, we as fellow passengers may not, okay? So the next is they can sense what passengers are in a bad mood. So I think we've all been next to people who are angry. And wouldn't it be nice if before we even had our seat assignment, we could make sure we weren't sitting next to one of those grumpy passengers. Or, it didn't say this, but how about the children who kicked the back of the seat? Okay, I digress. That wasn't one of them. It was the passengers that are in a bad mood. They know that. How about the dings that go off in an airplane? Well, the dings that you hear are a special communication between the cockpit and the crew. Now, in the article, it said that flight attendants think that passengers don't know what the dings mean at all. That's not true. I think those of us who fly a lot know that once you're at an appropriate altitude for moving around in your seat or taking your seatbelt off, or being able to activate, your devices, so that they think nobody figured out. I beg to differ with them. However, there is a whole different set of communications between the cockpit and the crew based on dings. Those are just the most familiar of them. So I don't think we're ever going to get to know all of them, and that's probably a good thing. Okay, next, and this is kind of creepy. Flight attendants know what parts of the plane are dirty. Now, in the article, it says that flight attendants think that passengers are not aware that there are places in the airplane that are dirty. I disagree with that. I think we all assume that things are not as clean as they might be, especially if you've ever been on an airplane and 3 days later you've gotten sick. I think it's safe to say that having a cleanup crew come in for 20 minutes when the plane is going from, one city to another is not enough to get it clean. I think we know that, but again, we're really not focusing our energy and attention on that too much because who wants to do that, but they know. And they're still there. You know, it's still their job, but they know what parts of the plane are dirty and what are not. So the next goes with the passengers that are in a bad mood. Flight attendants always know the really nervous flyers. They're able to spot them. They're able to know. So if somebody has their bag clutched on their lap for the flight, the flight attendants can tell that, you know, they're afraid. Look, I think if you're sitting next to that person, you know also when they're anxious. But this is another thing to do. Wouldn't it be great to know this before you even had your seat assignment or before the plane got off the ground, so maybe you could move seats? I was flying to France once, and I was flying in economy, and I was by the window, and a woman and her husband were next to me. She was next to me, he was in the aisle, and she was fine until turbulence hit. Now, I'm not a great fan of turbulence. I don't know a lot of people who are, because it just makes you a little bit uncomfortable because there's nothing you can do about it. But she clutched my hand as if the plane were going down. And when you fly over water sometimes, you'll hit these pockets of turbulence, and it will be rocky for a while. So I think we sat there with our hands clenched for about 20 minutes. So anyway, but she was lovely though. They were both lovely. They were from Boston, and you know, it wasn't that bad. But flight attendants are always able to really spot those people who have a hard time flying. So next time you're getting on a plane, whether it's for business or pleasure, keep those things in mind. You might want to pull a flight attendant over, since they know all this, and say, hey, can you give me the heads up? Am I next to somebody who you think is in a bad mood? Is there anybody on this airplane who's seasonally inappropriately dressed, so we can, you know, make a call and have them investigated? Anyway, that's the Warrior 5 for this week. Safe travels if you're going anywhere. And if you're not, have a beautiful week, and we'll see you next week.